Hi everybody, welcome back to Talking About Success. I'm Jack Canfield, your host. I have a wonderful guest, Lee Jenkins, I'm going to talk about in a minute. And he's an educator. I used to be an educator. And I think he's doing some really, really important work in helping create environments where students love to learn. So formal introduction is he's the author of How to Create the Perfect School. And he doesn't just describe perfect, but he explains how educators and parents can move closer and closer to the perfect education every day, every month, and every year. So we started kindergarten, and kindergartners have a lot of enthusiasm, and it kind of gets killed over the years. So let's just start, when you're saying create the perfect school, what do you mean by perfect school?
I mean that the kids who start kindergarten, so excited, we all know that, keep that enthusiasm for the next 12 years. Because if we kept that enthusiasm for learning, then there's no limit to what we could do in our schools if the kids actually wanted to be there. But when I interview high school teachers, high school kids, how many still love learning in high school? We get 5 to 8% of the kids still love learning in school. Now, some may love school for the sports, love school for theater, music, but to love learning like they did in kindergarten is not there. So perfect is we maintain that enthusiasm, and if we've lost it, we restore it.
So can you measure perfect? And if so, how do you do that?
Yes. When people are intrinsically motivated like the kindergartners are, there's two things going on. They're working really hard and they love it. And so we measure it. We ask them, how hard are you working? From no effort to I'm all in. And what about joy? I hate it, it's okay, to I love it. And so when the kids are intrinsically motivated, they say, I'm working really hard and I love it. We can keep that all the way through.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, if you look at the dropout rates in schools across America by high school, in the high school, some lose 50% of the students. What is it that destroys this enthusiasm, this motivation?
Okay. And when I say this, I don't want to be critical of the teachers. It's a system they inherited, but there's several things going on. One is public embarrassment. So I'm working in a school in Ruidoso, New Mexico, and earlier in the year, they had in the hallway a chart for every student, their name on it, and then stickers for how well they'd done on something. Well, it's public embarrassment. You can easily see who's doing well and who's struggling. When I went back last week, it's all changed. What's in the hallway are symbols for when kids have done better than they've ever done before. And there's no names on it. We're not comparing kid to kid. It's when you do better than you've ever done before, we're going to thank you and honor you. It's really gratitude to the kids. So everybody wins, not because it's a participation trophy, but because they've actually proven that they did better. They've proven it that they did better than ever before.
You know, I went to a military school from 5th grade till I graduated high school, and they would post everybody's grades in every subject on the bulletin board when grades came out. And I think it probably motivated the top 5% because you wanted to be number 3 instead of number 2 or whatever. But the rest of the class, I think, was just totally disheartened.
So you mentioned some schools have a 50% dropout rate. Well, it wasn't that those kids were excited about school all the way through till they got in 9th grade and they decided to drop out. Probably those are the kids in 1st and 2nd grade realized that they're at the bottom of the heap. So they stuck around for 8 or 9 more years before they dropped out. That's really rather amazing. When you're being considered a loser for that long every day. Yeah.
Now, I know you have a graph in your book that shows that every year this love of learning goes down. 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, just keeps declining over time.
Yes.
It's so sad.
I surveyed over 3,000 teachers. Simple question, what grade level you teach and what % of your kids love school? And the teacher said 95% of the kindergartners love school, and it goes down every year until we get to a low of 37% in grade 9. Then it ticks up just a little bit, but that's because of electives and sports, music, theater. It's not because they love learning. The learning didn't get better. That kept going down, actually.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
So is this, we see this going down over time.
Yes.
You ask most parents of middle school kids and high school kids, like, do your kids love school? And as you said, it's down to like 37%. Mm-hmm. In your work with what you teach, have you actually seen kids in high school and junior high that actually love learning?
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yes. They're the same, in a bigger body, in the same person. Mm-hmm. There's two things. They love the evidence that they've done better than ever before. And what we also add up the total on all the assessments for the whole class. How many did the class get right? And it's like any team, they like to contribute to the team. I'll tell you the story that's the tearjerker for the teachers. The class, say it's in high school Spanish, and they have 400 vocabulary words, and they get a quiz on 20 of them a week out of the 400 at random. And the class has one more right than ever before. Well, a kid that's not considered one of the star students does a chest pump and says, I did it. It was me. It was my 3 questions right that put us over the top. I did it. It was me. Instead of, like you said in the military school, saying, oh, you're low, you're embarrassed. No, they contributed to the total for the class. Mm-hmm. And so what do they want to do the next time? They want to contribute even more. It's so simple, and yet it's powerful.
Now, in your book, you have, I think there's 4 sections in your book. You talk about, let's just briefly talk about those.
What is perfect? What's the definition of it, and how do we measure it? We talked about that. We measure with effort and joy.
Right.
Okay. Then the next part, what is it that teachers inherited that's destroying the love of learning that kids had in kindergarten? Mm-hmm. The third part is what do we do to replace that with? So we got data. I say one of the chapters is data are like baseball bats. They can be used for harm or joy.
True.
Okay. So you talked about in the military school using data for harm. Mm-hmm. So do schools still do it. Most schools. How do we use data for joy? We take away the kids learn in first grade spelling that I don't really have to learn this. I just have to know the words for Friday. So then they begin to dislike school because they see it's not real. Mm-hmm. It's just trying to please the teacher on Friday, but then I don't remember it. So we make cramming impossible. You actually cannot cram in the perfect school systems. It would make it impossible.
And how do you make it impossible?
Okay, so let's go back to that Spanish teacher. Mm-hmm. She says, okay, first year Spanish, there's 400 Spanish words. 400 words, and there's the vocabulary. And every week, they take a quiz on 20 of those 400, mm-hmm. but they don't know which 20 are coming. They're at random out of a bucket. And so in the beginning, it's a low score. And then they gradually improve. Well, they can't go home on Thursday night and cram 400 words. Right. They actually have to learn it. And then once the schools get it to work over several years, they coordinate this. So if you're in 4th year Spanish, you not only get questions from 4th year Spanish, you get questions from 3rd year, 2nd year, and 1st year. So there's 4 buckets in there. There's the 4th year Spanish word. There's mostly those. Then we get some 3rd year, some 2nd, some 1st, and the students know that. It's like, I don't have permission to forget this. I have to learn it because it's not going away.
Right. I'm not just cramming for the test. I'm learning for the purpose of actually knowing this.
I have to know it. Yes.
Yeah. And this constant and never-ending improvement that occurs is motivational.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not like we think we have to bribe them with something. No, we have to show them visually that you improved, the class improved, in elementary school, the grade level improved, and then we add it up for the whole school.
So if the class is improving, does that support kids supporting each other in cooperative learning techniques, that kind of thing?
They learn at a very young age that we're a team and we're going to help each other.
Good.
And they do, because if you're being ranked, you don't want to help anybody else.
Yeah.
But if you're a team, it's just like any athletic event or a music event. Yeah. You want to help the team to do better. And they do.
And one of the biggest complaints of employers is kids don't know how to work in teams because they've been competing with each other all through school.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we do want them to learn competition, but it's through athletics and other games. Mm-hmm. And they learn, but not academics. We don't want loser kids in math and loser kids in reading.
Right.
Loser kids in soccer. Okay, well, you lost the soccer game, kid. Buck it up, okay?
Right.
But not in the academics. No.
Right. Right. Now, your last section is, I think it's called Polishing Perfect.
Yes.
What's that about?
That is, if you've kept their enthusiasm high, then think about all the things you can do with them that you might not have done otherwise. It might not even work because the kids are discouraged. I'll give you an example. High school teacher, West Virginia, shared this with me, and I've shared it all over. Teachers love it. When you give an assignment to kids, you say, this is what I want you to learn. Then you say, here's 3 ways you can prove to me you've learned it. But if you got another idea how you can prove to me you learned it, come talk to me. So a history student, junior, U.S. history, took the teacher up on that. And she did almost every assignment for a whole year in U.S. history with political cartoons. She proved she got the history through the cartoons.
That's way cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's so simple. Every teacher can do that, and no matter what subject. Here's what I want you to learn. Here's 3 ways you can prove to me you learned it. If you got another idea, come talk to me. That's what I mean by the polish, where these ideas that are out there that people think every teacher should do, but if the kids hate being there, they're not going to come up with an idea because they're already demoralized. They just want to get through.
Very good. Very good. And then we turn off lifetime learners in general when that happens. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm a big advocate of your book and your movement and what you're trying to do out there in the world, or what you are doing in the world. And so if people want to get your book, if they want to hire you as a consultant, come speak at their school, district, or state conference or whatever, where do they find you?
The website is the best place to go. And my website is the letter L, the word bell as ring the bell, and the letter J, LtoJ.com.
LtoJ.com.
Yeah, and so where does that come from? Well, in the class, when you ask kids questions at the beginning of the year that they're supposed to know at the end of the year, you get an L-shaped curve, which we're not used to hearing that. But in the middle of the year, it's a bell curve. We all know the bell curve.
Right.
And the bell's for the middle of the year. But we never want to end the year with a bell curve. We want to end the year with a J curve.
Everyone's going up.
Yeah, everybody's going up. Now, it'd be nice if it was perfect and it was an I, but
Right.
probably not.
Right.
So it's the L to the bell to the J. So LtoJ.com is my website, and that's where all the information is.
I love it. I love it. I'm so glad you're on the planet right now. I'm sure there are millions of kids who will be glad too. So thank you.
Well, because there's so much pain in the education system. That's the motivation. That's the burden.
Yeah.
How do we take these little 5-year-old kids that are so excited? How do we just maintain it?
Well, I'm a big believer in the term suffering is optional. There are solutions. You're one of them. So thank you for being here and sharing that with everyone. Check out his website, LtoJ.com. That's easy to remember. All right, stick around. We have another guest coming up after this break, and we'll be right back.